496-5555. Jacksonville.
The short of it is there's talent in a lot of key spots. And with the amount of draft capital that we have at our disposal over the next 2 seasons, it's really exciting about what we can do there, especially knowing that that's the highest volume of draft capital that exists for any team in the NFL over the next 2 years.
I'm excited. It started with Liam becoming our head coach. It was clear as we sat with him and his vision for how we wanted to play football, what the identity and the standard was going to be at the Jacksonville Jaguars was exactly how I think about it. And you guys know through all the conversations I've had with you about you got to be tough, physically, mentally, smart football team that's disciplined. And that's exactly how Liam looks at it.
To the Jaguar fan base, I turn to you. With Liam's vision, with a disciplined approach, we're going to bring you a product that you all can be proud of. And we are so appreciative of your support. With that, game on.
1010XL 92.5 FM presents Jaguars Today with your hosts Mike Dempsey, Tony Smith, and Dylan Denmark.
All right, game on indeed for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who filled the major spots that we can think of right now. Good morning, Tony Smith. How are you?
Doing well.
Although they did announce like 7 more assistant coaches yesterday after filling out the coaching staff.
I think the only question about the front office stuff at this point really is Ethan Wall going to have any role in the organization?
Didn't hear about it yesterday.
Right. So that's kind of the big left hanging at this point, but I think everything else we're pretty clear on.
And look, I don't have any issue if they decide he has a role in there. It's not like, he's just used as like a mirror to bounce back the same ideas at Trent Baalke.
Right.
And I don't know that was his relationship anyway, but that's assuming the worst, that there had to have been some of that.
That was the assumption that was being made.
Right.
For the reason why everyone seemed to say Wall is at the bottom of my list. They listed the 5 names. Wall is at the bottom because of the connection to Trent Baalke. How real that is, I don't know how anyone could possibly know. How much he was just echoing what Trent Baalke wanted to do within the organization. I have no idea what the answer to that is, but it is I think the one remaining kind of question about what any of this is going to look like is Ethan Wall going to have any role in the organization? And I assume that's a question that's going to be asked today somehow.
And if he does, I don't think it's going to be a role that we notice, quite frankly, because like in the front office, those kind of decisions, they're going to be at the feet of James Gladstone, and he's going to get the credit and the blame from that department.
I don't know what Ethan Wall's been doing here the last couple of years, so I would assume if he took on the same role now that it would be, all right, he's doing something.
Hopefully, James Gladstone can develop some young up-and-comers like, James Gladstone, right? Yeah. And we can have that. It can be another branch off the McVay Les Snead tree, if you want to call it. I don't care. As long as we're having success, man. Mm-hmm. So he is going to speak again today. I don't think we're going to carry that here live on 1010XL, but we'll monitor that. Although Liam Coen speaking an hour from now, Jaguars head coach in Indianapolis for the scouting combine. So we're going to endeavor to bring you some of that. And much like yesterday, just on the over-the-air broadcast, we're not going to stream that. We're not able to. If you want to stream that, you can go to the Jaguars' various platforms out there, YouTube, Twitter, what have you, and watch in that way. But we will play that for the folks driving around Jacksonville because the head coach is speaking, and we want to hear from him.
No doubt.
By the way, both Liam Coen and James Gladstone going to sit down with Frank Frangie sometime after 12 noon today. And you'll hear those interviews coming up on the Frangie Show later on this afternoon. So we're going to have a ton. It's a good week for content, obviously, with the Combine coming up. We got Hayes Carline standing by. Tony, he'll join us in, about 20 minutes or so to discuss what his expectations, what he's going to be looking for at the Scouting Combine. Tuesday Top 5 today as well, lest we forget. We opted to go with the top 5 defensive building blocks on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we won't belabor it too much today because we got a lot of other things to get in. But, posted this yesterday, as I tend to do with the Tuesday Top 5. And I said, take into account age, productivity, contract status, what everything. Yep. Like if you were saying, okay, I want to keep this guy to build my defense around, you got to keep the contract with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a part of the factor. So within, 5 minutes of posting it, somebody gave the exact list that I've got today in the exact order that I like them today. And I don't think it's that big a pool you're going to draw from.
Yeah, like I think I wound up considering to some degree, maybe 8 names, maybe. Right? And I think 7 and 8 was like, dude, no. Like they were easy no's for me.
6 I definitely considered.
Yeah.
And that was probably about it,
Yeah.
quite frankly. You know, it was an easy core to get to narrow it down to.
It was not difficult for me to get to it. And, it's unfortunate that it is that small. And it's unfortunate the names that I think recently I would have had on the list, easily considering them as maybe. Like I think Devon Hamilton, if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have been, I don't know, maybe, as kind of a building block guy. And I'd consider it. Andre Sisco, after year 2, I would have been like, yeah, I'd consider it as a building block guy, but not now.
You could probably, if you want to count on Andre Sisco, by the way, he's still technically on the roster.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm like 70-30, let him walk right now.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Right. Now, look, if they turn around and they see something in Andre Sisco, because we're going to look and we're going to go, oh, look, Javon Hollins had 5 interceptions the last couple of years.
Right.
Well, Sisco's had like 8 in his time here in Jacksonville, and he's had opportunities for more, but he's been around the football. Somebody's probably going to pay Andre Sisco on the upside this time around. Whether that'll be the Jaguars, time will tell, because it's a whole new group. It's not just a set of eyes. It's multiple sets of eyes that are going to be evaluating this roster and where they need to go. So much like we do every day with Dylan Denmark. Good morning, Dylan.
What's up, Mike? I'm glad you threw that compliment in there.
What have you done today to make Jaguars Today that much better?
I made an open.
It was nice.
I put Michael Jackson in there, and I made some oatmeal.
I did. Oh, you made some oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's good.
For myself.
Just for you, though. Well, you're part of Jaguars Today, so that helps you get through the next couple of hours. We're all for it. All right. Yes, I enjoyed the open. Game on is where we're at right now in terms of a slogan, what have you. And then, our focus today is going to be on hearing from the Jags brass, coach, front office, the whole thing. But as the week goes on, it's the NFL scouting combine,
it is.
right? So I don't, Shedeur Sanders, that part of me goes, he didn't want to be seen next to Cam Ward throwing the football because those arms are not the same.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, like Abdul Carter, who's he afraid of? Right? I mean, it's just like I say it every year, so I'm going to try to not to be a hypocrite about if you think the best way to position yourself to make the most money, to get the best landing spot in the NFL is to do it this way. It's your career, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be upset. Would I like to see Shedeur Sanders throw next to Cam Ward? Sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact me here in Jacksonville.
No.
Although I guess
like
it
to
could, depending on if
see
Tennessee
it so he gets
takes one.
pushed up the board, right? Like I would like to see Shedeur Sanders be picked in the top 4.
Like to see him perform well in whatever environment he puts himself in.
And I don't think him not working out at the combine is a mark in his favor necessarily for going in the top 4. So I would rather see him work out than not work out, just from a Jaguars perspective, because the Jags aren't interested, and I would want the teams that want him to want him right before the Jaguars go on the clock at 5. So I don't love that Shedeur Sanders isn't going to be working out at the combine, but that's his prerogative.
I'm not sure I want him to go before 5. I think the ideal scenario for me is one of those two quarterbacks sitting there at 5, and then the Jets are the team that wants to jump ahead of the Raiders. Because I think there's a big feeling that the Raiders would take Shedeur Sanders if he's there at 6. So if the Jets feel like they've got to have him, are they going to deal with the Patriots at 3, right? Or are they going to wait and try to jump one spot, pay the least? What would you take right now, Tony, to trade back to 7? From 5. Obviously, you'd have 7 plus what the Jets are giving up. What is that compensation? What do they have to give you to make that deal?
I would like to hear the second-round pick, but
I'd probably settle for a second.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd take less than that.
No,
I don't think I'm doing it for a third. If I feel like I'm going to take, like if I love Mason Graham and there's a risk that I'm going to miss out on him.
Yeah. And you already got 2 picks in the 3rd round.
You do.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying, like, I'm thinking more like a 2nd and a 5th, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the chart says, but I don't think you're going to get a 1st to make that kind of move. But I would be willing to roll the dice on the Jets 2nd rounder and adding that, because I think that's a rich range in the draft. That that early to middle second round is pretty good based on some of the mocks that we've done. Again, we're not draft pundits here, but, we're along the way, learning a little bit more. We'll do another mock draft Wednesday. Tomorrow, saw this item, Tone, probably means nothing, but it brings a big fat smile to my face. Have you heard of the account called Say Cheese on Twitter?
Maybe.
All right. It's got 1.4 million followers, okay? I don't know what the hell they really did. It just says the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Well, they posted something on, yesterday while we were on the air. I don't regularly check the Say Cheese account.
Right.
And I'm not putting any veracity to this other than it brings a big fat smile to my face as they tweeted, the Houston Texans are threatening relocation.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Due to massive stadium renovation hurdle. They're seeking over $1 billion from public taxpayers. The stadium is only 23 years old. I've always said public money for stadiums should not be a thing, except in Jacksonville.
Yeah, yeah.
I just think it's freaking hilarious that they've got a stadium was brand new in 2020 or 2002-ish, right?
Yeah.
When they debuted. And now they've got to pour $1 billion into it. And
It's old now, man.
look,
they're going to deal with the same things everyone deals with whenever this comes up. The public going, why are you taking our money? Let the billionaires pay for
Correct.
it. Like every time, it's the same cycle every time. Like you're not going to win the battle. Do you want the team there or not?
right.
Like,
If you want the team, that's the cost of having a team.
Like we
paid it. We sucked it up.
We know.
We
they
got it done.
you. Like
Yeah.
it's that thing. It's like, what are you gonna do? Just not have a team anymore?
Well,
and most people say no. Well, Houston's done it.
They've done it.
Yeah.
Right. And it was because the local politicians said, no.
Yeah.
We're not going to put public money into
Yeah.
that thing. So do I think they're going to leave Houston, the NFL right now, which is what a top 5 market in terms of size?
Right.
Right? No, I don't. But I love the fact that we can drag those Texan fans
for sure.
through the gutter.
Oh, I've already
with this
seen.
story.
Like I didn't realize that was the account I was looking at it on.
Okay.
Right, but I was looking at the responses to it, and Jaguars fans are
London
taking
Jaguars,
laughs.
London Jaguars, London Jaguars.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, London Texans,
Yeah.
London Texas. It was the slur they used to use on us, but we've turned it
that's
around
been
on them
fun.
now.
By the way,
it's
looking at the
hilarious.
draft chart, talking about moving from 5 to 7,
All right.
they say the 5th pick is worth about 1,700 points. The 7th pick, 1,500 points.
200 points.
So a 200-point difference would put you in the middle of the 3rd round.
Yeah, I ain't taking it.
Yeah.
That's maybe that's what they get.
Yeah.
You know, would you do? I guess it depends. If you're sitting there at 5,
Yeah.
and you've got 2 players you love, and you're pretty confident the Jets are coming up to take the quarterback.
What if they offer you a second rounder next year?
Well, and
I'd be in for it.
the complicating factor there would be the Jets don't have a 3rd-round pick.
That
So-
would be a complicating thing. All right, so there you go. All right, so maybe a 2nd, and we'll send you back a 5th or something like that. But I don't know if you heard Dylan. What would you do it for the Jets 2nd rounder next year? I would. Got a new brain trust. We got to trust them, right?
Yeah.
Stockpiling picks just so we can use them to trade out of the 1st round like the Rams did. Maybe. I don't know. You got to
Yeah,
trust them at this
maybe.
point.
Yeah.
Look, we're pot committed to this Coen, Gladstone, Baselli triumvirate of power.
No
now.
doubt.
So if you're not going to trust them, I don't, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Look, you don't have to if you don't want to. But I think, again, I mentioned it yesterday. Tom McManus put it very well. I'm going to believe it's going to work until I'm proven wrong. Right? Because why not have some optimism? It's new. Yeah. Are they young? Absolutely. What do the old guys get us? What do the good retreads get us? Not a whole lot. Got us one division title, right? With Doug Peterson in 2022. But other than that, not a ton.
Oh, and I misspoke. The Jets do have a 3rd-round pick. It's just late in the round. It's
they
at
don't have that early.
92.
So they have to add something to it.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3rd this year, a 3rd next year.
So
is
at
what I'm
92,
thinking, Tom.
that's worth 132. They'd have to give you the 3rd and 4th.
I just
which
want
is
to
at
get
109.
some draft capital. I want to squeeze this bad boy. By the way, I've already done my mock for the week. First time I haven't traded in the 1st round. I did, I think, one minor trade where I moved back like 3 or 4 spots in like the 3rd round and picked up like an extra 5th round pick. I think. So it's very minimal, and we are going to operate again if you're going to do a mock as if you have filled a position in free agency. And that's up to us which position we're going to fill. I'm going to try to rotate those spots every week so we can mix it up a little bit. So we'll unveil all that tomorrow. All right, coming up in a few minutes, we'll take you live to Indianapolis. Hayes Carline from the Frangie Show standing by, under an hour away from hearing head coach Liam Cohen speak live in Indianapolis right here. Again, we'll have that on the 1010XL and 92.5 FM airwaves. We will not stream that. You can also hit us up today if you want to get in on the phone lines at 641-1010. Same number for the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, or on social media at MD_1010XL, at 1010XL Fat Tony, and at 1010XL Denmark.
Duval.
Yeah, baby. All right. Game on. All right, Jaguars today going live to Indy, coming up next on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
With that, game on.
Jaguars today.
From the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios. 1010XL. Saluting the brave men and women who bravely salute our country. 1010XL. We salute you.
Hey, John, have you heard about the incredible offers at Randy Marion Cadillac?
They've got rates as low as 3.9% for 36 and 48 months on the stunning 2024 Escalade.
That's right. Experience luxury like never before. Whether it's the exquisite interior or the advanced technology, every drive feels like a royal experience.
Visit Randy Marion Cadillac today on Southside Boulevard in Jacksonville.
And don't forget, Randy Marion is the king of price. Drive and indulge in luxury at Randy Marion Cadillac.
Plus tax tag title 999 admin fee with resist all and approved credit.
Hello, I'm attorney Malcolm Anthony. Being charged with domestic violence can turn your life upside down. If you're in trouble, call me, Malcolm Anthony, at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
We don't have too many cold nights on the First Coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap into action and provide you with the best solution. Heater and heat pump repair service and new system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
Homeowners, listen up. It's time to start fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
Looking for a great place to enjoy some craft creations and soak up some scenery? Fernandina's Mocama Beer Company is a must-see and must-try. Nassau County knows it. Visitors need to find out about it. Mocama means near the big water where the sun is born. And if you visit their tap room in Fernandina Beach, you'll see how they've mastered equal parts precision and art in creating great flavors from IPAs to Pilsners, lagers, and sours, plus plenty more. Mocama.com, Mocama Beer Company. Start an adventure and find them in Fernandina.
This month, 1010XL shines the spotlight on African Americans in our community who have made the First Coast a better place to live. I'm E.T. Listen for my stories during Black History Month on 1010XL. Brought to you by Instant Keys and McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Don't miss the Players Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash, there are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Shopping with your parents can be embarrassing.
Why would they sell jeans with holes in them? I'm going to speak to the manager.
Mom!
That hoodie is giving. You should get it. YOLO.
Thanks to the Chase mobile app, your kid can shop independently while you keep an eye on their spending. So you can go from...
We can be twinsies.
...to...
How was shopping? Saw you stayed on budget.
Thanks, Mom. Freedom for kids, control for parents. That's family banking from Chase.
Account subject to approval. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank N.A. member FDIC.
Experience the high-flying action truly unlike anything on the Supercross circuit at Daytona Supercross. Saturday, March 1st. Side-by-side intensity of Monster Energy AMA Supercross on the most demanding track of the circuit. Get close to the action as riders get pushed to the limits on the Ricky Carmichael designed track. For a chance to win tickets to Daytona Supercross, answer this. Who won the 450 final Supercross at Daytona in 2024? Text the winner's last name to 641-1010 now.
Jacksonville, get ready to spice up your night at One Night Taco Stand. Every Taco Tuesday, enjoy their mouth-watering tacos for just $2.99 and get your weekend started with 2-for-1 house margaritas. Find fresh Mexican street food, stiff drinks, and fun vibes at One Night Taco Stand with 3 Jacksonville locations in Mandarin, Orange Park, and Southside at Bay Meadows.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
You can't touch this.
Jaguars today on 1010XL.
All right, in a few minutes, we'll head to Indianapolis, talk with Hayes Carline of the Frangie Show as he's live there. Frank and Mia are also live there. You hear Mia O'Brien on Helmets and Heels coming up live from Indianapolis, and the Frangie Show was live in Indy yesterday. We'll be there today and I think tomorrow as well. And they'll have sit-downs with head coach Liam Coen and new general manager James Gladstone as well. Tony, I saw a report that the Bengals will not let T. Higgins go. They'll use the franchise tag if they have to on him. I just think there's a lot of suitors for T. Higgins that even if the Jags are interested,
I always felt like it was unlikely.
Yeah, if I'm T. Higgins and the money's the same, Washington or Jacksonville, I think there are pluses to both. But you look at Washington going to the NFC title game last year, and you think maybe they're a piece or two away from getting over the hump, and I think they would be in play there. But one thing that would do, and I think this is something we talked about when we saw that the salary cap is going to bump, it's going to help the teams retain their own players if they want to, right? There's a little more space now for Cincinnati to get T. Higgins a new contract for Jamar Chase and get Trey Hendrickson under contract.
And it's not a free agent class with a bunch of juice, right? Like, there's a couple of guys, and T. Higgins would be one of them, but there's just not a whole lot of guys that everyone's going to be after.
All right, Tone, let's head to Indy.
Yeah, the Hodges Mazda at the Avenues presents Combine coverage on 1010XL, brought to you by Window World of Northeast Florida. As we head up to Indianapolis with the Hammer, Hayes Carline, our Jaguars embedded reporter. How are you today, Hayes?
Gentlemen, I am doing great. How are you all?
We're doing fantastic. What was your takeaway from the James Gladstone introductory press conference yesterday?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that he and Liam Cohen, while they're familiar with each other, were not like best friends. Like, that was refreshing to hear, because that's kind of how this business works. And, I think just with both of them having the connections to the Rams that they had, you sort of wondered if, how close they were. And to hear James talk about it, I mean, they worked together a little bit, but they never had conversations of, hey, one day, we're going to be somewhere and I'm going to be the GM and you're going to be the head coach. And then to hear Liam talk about it and say that, they had kind of limited engagement with each other at the Rams, but he was really impressed with how Gladstone handled the undrafted process and the communication skills that he had with the coaches. And, that was all good to see. So, it seems like it's a merit-based hire, and obviously, James comes across very well. So it's an exciting time for the Jaguars. Brand new leadership, and it's long overdue.
Hayes, probably the number one thing that stood out to me was James Gladstone mentioned his job is to help fulfill Liam Cohen's vision of this team, because there are all these questions and they're always going to throw collaboration and it's a group decision, but there are going to be times when you don't agree and you can collaborate all you like, and I'm going to see things X, you're going to see them Y, Tony's going to see them Z. So I think this was a little bit of an insight into really, if there is an upper hand, it's, hey, Liam Cohen is putting together a vision. Now it's up to us to go out and execute that vision, rather than saying, here are the players that you're going to have to figure out how to work with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is very coach-centric, and I think we'll continue to hear that today when Liam and James meet with reporters here at the Combine, and they'll both join Frank one-on-one in the noon hour. So, but yeah, I mean, it's Liam's show. I think James is here to help him facilitate. And look, my guess is that if they have a disagreement on a player, then they'll probably just move on to another player. I mean, there's obviously, particularly in the draft, there's always a lot of options that you can go with, but I don't think it's going to often come down to that. I mean, I think if Liam Cohen likes a guy, I think James Gladstone is going to be on board with that. So, I think it's going to be a good working relationship, and they both seem like-minded and similar philosophies. So it's going to be fun watching this thing grow and hopefully develop into a winner.
They're going to have to grow. They're going to have to grow old. Certainly not a whole lot of age here in this whole thing. How do you feel about the Jaguars youth movement they have going on right now from GM on down?
I think it's high risk, high reward. I mean, I don't think it's going to have a middle ground. I think it'll either be a disaster or it'll be a triumphant success. So, and hopefully it'll be a huge success. But certainly when you're dealing with inexperience at all levels, from really everybody that's got a position of leadership in the organization is in the role for the first time in their career. So, obviously that carries a lot of risk. That's a big variable, but the Jaguars did need to embrace where football is headed. And so I think Shad Khan's on the right track. You just hope that he's hired the right people. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly risky. I think I've mentioned this to you before. I think it's so ironic because, and it wasn't just the Jaguars, but like the league didn't want to touch Bill Belichick because they didn't want to give him control over everything.
Right.
And then the Jaguars went and gave total control to a 39-year-old head coach who's never done it and really hasn't been in the league that long. But, again, it's where is the game going, not necessarily where the game has been over the last 10, 15 years. And it will be exciting to see. I mean, watching the Jaguars offensively over the last couple of years, there just haven't been very many moments at all where you felt like you were watching one of the most creative, innovative offenses in the league. It just seems stagnant. And I don't think that was poor execution. I mean, I'm sure you could blame some of it on poor execution. It's always a mix of everything. But to me, it was more the scheme than the talent. And, hopefully that bears out because I don't think that they've got to make sweeping changes to this roster to win. They need improvements, but I think they don't need the improvements they need are, in my opinion, you can accomplish all of that in one offseason, particularly when you've got the fifth pick, 10 picks overall, and enough salary cap space to at least maneuver your way into 2 or 3 pretty decent free agent signings.
And that's the thing, Hayes, we were just talking about it a little bit earlier. The salary cap bumps for everybody, a little more than expected. Like they're expecting a bump, but maybe the Jags have $6 to $8 million more roughly than they anticipated having. But Tony and I have been talking about, I think the biggest impact that makes is not that you're going to go out and sign more guys from different teams. It's going to enable teams to keep their own guys out of the free agent pool. So do you think having a little bit of extra financial flexibility ultimately changes the fate of any of the Jaguars who might have otherwise moved on?
I don't think it changes the fate of Sheriff or Cisco, but I think in regards to Christian Kirk, it has to make a difference because that's got to be a tough call for them. And we've talked about this. I ultimately think Christian Kirk stays, even if they couldn't restructure him. I just don't think that they're going to release him. I think they would be very nervous about how well that would sit with the franchise quarterback. But so I think they're probably going to keep Christian Kirk. And certainly getting a couple extra, $4 to $6 million, yeah, that makes a big difference in terms of that kind of a decision where it's kind of a coin flip. You could go either way on, and now maybe it tips it more to 60-40. So I think in regards to Christian Kirk, it really helps.
I know today's the first kind of busy day up there at the NFL Combine, Hayes, but have you been able to get any sense up there yet as to how the league is reacting to the changes the Jaguars have made to this point?
I think there's a lot of, hey, good for you guys, good for, the Jaguars taking a big swing, good for Shad. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of skepticism on how well it will work just because none of these guys have ever done it. And, and that carries risk. Now, it doesn't mean it won't work, obviously, but so I would say it's sort of like a tepid confidence, but one in which the risks are pointed out pretty early in the conversation as well. So I don't think anybody is quivering over the moves the Jaguars have made in the division. But again, that doesn't really mean anything. We have to see how the games play out. We have to see what kind of a coach Liam Cohen is, what kind of a GM James Gladstone is, and but I do think I am confident that this is the best organizational structure that they've had in Shad Khan's tenure as owner. Now, it may not work, but this setup, the way they have it, is the best setup that they've had.
All right, Hayes, I know you guys are going to have a chance to talk with Liam Cohen and James Gladstone for today's Frangie show coming up this afternoon. They're also going to speak at the podium here shortly. We're going to try to bring the Liam Cohen audio live to our radio audience out there. I know they've both spoken a lot, obviously James Gladstone just yesterday, but is there something that you would like Liam Cohen to answer that we haven't heard from him yet?
Yeah, I think we need to start getting into specifics. It's been great, welcoming Liam and James and those press conferences, and that's what those press conferences should be about. So I'm not criticizing anybody. I wasn't there yesterday. We were flying here. But, now we need to start moving the conversation towards specifics for the fan base. Like, what is the plan with Christian Kirk? What is the plan with Evan Ingram? How do you feel about your salary cap space? How aggressive do you feel like you can be in free agency? All those things are things that we need to get to. And so, yeah, hopefully today we start to get a little bit more of an idea of the direction of the offseason for the Jaguars now that we've sort of gotten the, get to know you press conferences out of the way.
All right, well, Hayes, we anticipate some great coverage over the next few days from the Combine. We appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll grab a few minutes from you tomorrow to reflect on what we hear from the head coach and brand new general manager as well. But thanks for the time today, and we'll be listening this afternoon for you guys sitting down with Liam Cohen and James Gladstone.
Sounds great, gentlemen. Thanks so much. Look forward to talking with you tomorrow.
All right, there he goes, Hayes Carline. You can find him on the X platform at his name, Hayes Carline, Carlyon. All right, let's come back, Tony. It's the Tuesday top 5. Who are your top 5 defensive building blocks? Who do you think they are on the current roster of the Jacksonville Jaguars? And you don't have to prioritize them in order. Some have. If you're numbering them, I'm going to assume number 1 is the most important guy. If you're just throwing a list of names, maybe not as much, but we'll rank them 5 through 1 when we return in a moment. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today from the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL. 1010XL takes you inside the program director's office with Dan and Jeff.
Your show is capable of so much more.
The Drill.
We'll try harder, okay?
Mornings.
Just give us a second chance.
On 1010XL.
Ackerman Urology is now servicing the World Golf Village area.
If you have elevated PSA, prostate, bladder, or kidney issues, plan to see the experts at Ackerman Urology right away. Their new location off I-95 at International Golf Parkway.
Get a healthy start in 2025. The Florida Department of Health in Duval County is here to encourage you to get healthy and stay healthy this year. They have a dedicated team who are committed to providing quality care. The goal is to protect, promote, and improve the health of you and your family. Visit duval.floridahealth.gov to learn more about their health programs and services. That's duval.floridahealth.gov.
The best golfing weather is upon us, and Hidden Hills Golf Club invites you to enjoy your next round of golf with us. Our welcoming atmosphere and love for golf keep our friends coming back. Check us out at hiddenhillsgc.com. You'll be glad you did.
If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904-395-5598.
This is Daytona, the awe-inspiring spectacle of Supercross, and the most challenging course to witness the air-catching, adrenaline-pumping, heart-pounding action unlike any other race in Florida. Daytona Supercross. The biggest names battle it out under the lights at the World Center of Racing. Don't miss it. The gate drops Saturday, March 1st. Secure your tickets and trackside access today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Hey folks, Nick here for Zero Res, and if you still have a little bit of time for the hottest price of the year on carpet cleaning, maybe you had people over for the game or you're doing early spring cleaning, but in February, only $147 for 3 rooms, plus the 4th room is free. That's right, schedule now and you'll get 3 rooms for $147, and the 4th room is free. Yeah, the 4th room is on me. Hottest price of the year. Zero Res. Spell it forward, spell it backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
I open the door and take you inside the locker room to get you closer to the field, the players and coaches you care about.
Get a look at Hayes' blog on 1010XL.com.
My blog is brought to you by Roland Reese Plumbing,
where quality and experience count.
I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is more than just a legal process. It's a life-changing event that can impact your future, finances, and your relationship with your children. You've worked hard to build a life that you're proud of, and you deserve a legal partner who will work just as hard to protect it.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
You don't have to be a football star to get a signing bonus. The team at Republic Services needs your skills, and they're paying up to $5,000 for you to join the roster. You'll be joining a winner. As an essential business, the Republic Services trucks have not stopped rolling with hourly and weekly pay and better benefits and vacation packages than the rest of the league. Driver trainees, $1,000 sign-on bonus. CDL drivers, $3,000. Diesel mechanics, $5,000 bonus. Join the winning team at Republic Services today. Visit republicservices.com.
Equal opportunity employer.
We're certainly facing interesting economic times. For me, it's comforting to know my money's in good hands with ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. Experience? Yeah, that's Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, Scott Regner, Janice Cobb, and Reed Wingate. They have the expertise and knowledge to take care of your money. For more info, go to ITPPartners.com. ITP Partners, they're my financial partners for life.
Non-compensated client testimonial may not be representative of all client experiences. No guarantee of future performance or success.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the country that offers multi-unit hair grafting, FUE NeoGraft hair transplants, and the 45-minute effective PRP treatments.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
Thank you, IHRS.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Schedule a free evaluation and find out how to grow your hair back and keep the hair you have. Call 904-777-IHRS. Take the first step to restoring your hair today. Visit hairforme.com.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
IHRS has been restoring hair for men and women for over 30 years.
Call now for a free in-person or virtual evaluation. 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Or visit hair4me.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now more Jaguars today on 1010XL.
I was looking at this, Tone, out of the corner of my eye. Kuiper's new mock. It's got 2 running backs in the top 12. Oof. Make it make sense to me. All right, it's supposed to be, we're all hearing deep draft. You're going to get a bunch of startable running backs on day 2, maybe even into day 3 this year. I don't know, man. If I
assume one of those is to Dallas.
I would assume, let's take a peek here. Let's see, Abdul Carter going to the Titans. Cam Ward to the Browns. I think they would do that too. They don't. Again, this is tea leaf reading, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a source inside the Browns organization that's telling me whether they really like Shedeur Sanders or not. Travis Hunter to the Giants. Will Campbell to the Patriots. We got to trademark it, Tony. And we sit and take Mason Graham, which is fine. Mason Graham. I had Graham to Jacksonville. This is Kuiper speaking a month ago as well. He uses his leverage, power, and quickness to wreak havoc from the inside. And though his 3.5 sacks on the season won't drop many jaws, he has the traits and upside of a top 3 prospect in this class. After hiring offensive-minded Liam Cohen as its new coach, Jacksonville might take a long look at that side of the ball in round 1, but it can't ignore huge problems on defense. Only the Panthers gave up more yards per play than the Jags this season. And though the Jags have Eric Armstead and Devon Hamilton under contract, and Mason Smith as well, they could use a dominant force inside between Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. That is what Mel Kuiper says. Ashton Genty goes to the Raiders with the next selection. Then Shedeur goes to the Jets again. I think they would trade up. I don't think the Raiders would pass Shedeur.
Wild that the Raiders would draft a tight end and a running back in the first round in back-to-back years.
And pass QB, at least in this instance. Last year, they wanted Nix, apparently.
Yeah.
And didn't get him.
It's just in the modern NFL that the Raiders would be the team that took a tight end and a running back in the first round in back-to-back years. Wow.
Right. Well, used to be just speed receivers that they do. Jalen Walker out of Georgia going to Carolina. Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, going to the Saints. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State, has had some injury concerns, but many feel he'd be the top offensive lineman on the board if he didn't have those concerns.
Yeah.
Will Johnson, the Michigan corner, and then Dallas takes Amarian Hampton as the second running back off the board in this one. Let me scroll down to the bitty bottom here, and only one round from Kuiper today. So among names that we have mocked to the Jags, again, the second round, Walter Nolan going in the first year, Jahdae Barron going in the first year. This is towards the end of the round. Anyway, Kelvin Banks Jr. falling. Gray Zabel going 24th to Minnesota. So he's definitely been a riser. Azariah Thomas, the corner out of Florida State. There's a time when all the mock drafts, if they went multi-rounds, he was like a 3rd, 4th round pick, now in the first round. Again, Ted McMillan falling to 22 right there. How about that one? Emeka Ibuka going ahead of him among wide receivers. Let's see if he's got anybody else going ahead of him at the wide receiver spot right now. Scrolling, and it doesn't look like. Anyway, that's Kuiper's mock out there, version, I think, 2.0. All right, so let's get to our Chad and Sandy real estate question today, which is the Tuesday top 5 today.
Number 5.
There you go. We're asking you for the 5 defensive building blocks. I feel like Dylan's like, are you watching the clock? We got a lot to do. Liam Cohen is coming up. All right, hit us one more time, please. If you could, Dylan Denmark.
Number 5.
There you go. All right. I think that played out quite well. I'll go 5. I'll go first here, Tone. I went with Jarian Jones at 5. Young, talented guy, showed that, starting is not too big for him, particularly as a nickel, which is looked at as a starter now. You basically have, maybe 12 starting positions, the way that people put together a roster.
The third corner is a starter.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I thought Jarian Jones, you factor in, he's on a rookie deal.
Yep.
He maybe has some ability to play inside, outside. It is one of the premium positions in the National Football League. You're still talking about quarterback, left tackle, rush end, corner, and I think wide receiver has kind of moved into that group as well. So I've got Jones at number 5 on my list.
Number 5 for me, I have Foye Oluokun. If he's under contract for the next 3 years, if he averages 100 tackles over the next 2 years, he'll be third in franchise history in tackles. If he plays his third year of that contract year, he'll leave the Jaguars likely as the all-time leading tackler in franchise history. And I don't have any other linebacker that I considered for this spot. I just don't see anyone to build around necessarily there. And like we talked about, I think it gets slim when you get down to 4 and 5 for me. It really kind of got slim as far as the what I was picking from in my mind. So I have Foye Oluokun at 5.
All right, Dylan?
I went Mason Smith. A little bit of a risk, but number 5, I went with a rookie last year, into the season really well. 8 pressures in the last month of the season. One of the top D tackles as a rookie. What didn't start like the way we wanted it to, but a second rounder produced, and I think he's going to do well this year.
All right, the number 5s are in the books, which brings us to
number 4.
There you go. I've also got Mason Smith at number 4, Tone. I have, I guess I say also. I also have him in my top 5. Young guy. I have a lot of hope for his development, which is one of the reasons in a lot of these mocks, gravitated towards more of the pure nose tackle type defensive tackle in the second round as opposed to jumping in with Mason Graham in the first round. Look, they want to run the Mason and Mason show, Adam. I mean, Eric Armstead's only here for one more year, I would presume. I think this guy has a world of talent. He's on a rookie deal. It is an important cog, that defensive tackle position in both the run and the pass. So, to me, couldn't get by the top 5 without including him.
I do not have Mason Smith in my 5.
Okay.
In fact, he would be the 6th guy, and that's where I'm really itchy about putting anybody on the list. And it speaks to why I'm so gung-ho for Mason Graham. Like, it's part of that is how I feel about Mason Smith at this point on the roster. Number 4 for me, Tyson Campbell. I wish I could put him higher. But I go back to how I felt about it last year when they gave him the contract. I didn't want him to give him that contract. I wanted them to make him play it out for one more year and then see what happens with Tyson Campbell. But he's got the money, and the money says they're treating him like that. I mean, he's getting paid like a top 8 corner in the league on an average annual salary basis right now. He's eventually got to live up to those kind of things. So he's certainly the guy right now in that room that you would consider the building it around guy. So that gets him to number 4 on my list.
All right, Dylan.
I want the same Tyson Campbell. I just feel like I try to make this list as to where who's going to be here 3 to 4 years, maybe even longer. And I felt like with Tyson, I know he's got the contract security, but if he, keeps getting hurt or, he doesn't perform, they might cut him, in a couple of years. So I kind of felt iffy with that, but just with the contract, I had him at 4.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could say that about a lot of guys, right? I mean, whether they'll be here or not, and that's fine. I mean, it's your evaluation of these guys. So let's jump up to the next level.
Number 3.
There it is. That's where I have Tyson Campbell there as well. I don't think we're really that much off here. I think he's the best corner currently on this team. It's a massive position of importance. If you didn't have him, you'd have to go find somebody and probably pay him similar kind of money to fill that role. We're talking about, maybe acquiring like a Jair Alexander. Well, he's going to make Tyson Campbell money or maybe even more, right? If you bring him in here, particularly if he is free and it's not a kind of a trade situation. But Tyson's still in his mid-20s. He's playing in his age 25 season this upcoming year. I still think he's got a lot of talent. Is he a little bit overpaid? Sure. Maybe that's why he's not higher on my list, but that's who I have at 3.
Number 3 for me is Jarian Jones. Jarian gave up a passer rating of 81.2 last season. That's not good enough to be top of the league necessarily, but he was the best on the team for the Jaguars last year, and just 2 points higher than the number Tyson Campbell put up in his best season of his first 4 in that particular stat. He gave up 78, around that, in his second year in the league. By the way, Tyson Campbell, the last 2 years, I think it's 115 and 120. It's the passer rating when he's been targeted the last 2 years here in Jacksonville. On top of that, Jarian Jones, he's a plus personality, attitude guy on top of that. You can see, I don't know if he'll ever be more than the third corner because the slot may be where he's best, but that's okay. That's a starting spot right now in the National Football League, and that's enough to get him to number 3 for me.
Dylan?
Yeah, I got the same as Tony, 4 and 3, Jarian Jones.
All right, moving on.
Number 2.
I think we're all going to have the same 2 guys here. Yeah. It's only a question of which order did you list them. I put Josh Hines-Allen at number 2 because, quite frankly, look, he is an accomplished pass rusher, the most sacks in franchise history, and all that's fantastic, but he's also costing you a ridiculous amount of money. He's got to be a consistent double-digit sack guy, like a 12-plus guy, to justify this contract, in my opinion, even though others are going to top it. Right now, he's making, I think, the second most on an average annual value among all edge rushers in the National Football League. But I think he loves the franchise. I think he loves playing here. I do think he plays hard. I'd like to see more production, more bang for the buck. But, I mean, I can't imagine 2 people I'd rather have more than Josh Hines-Allen. It sounds like you guys are probably in the same boat.
Number 2 for me is Trayvon Walker.
Okay.
It does surprise me if you had asked me after his rookie year, would I have had him on this kind of list? I don't know. Right? The way I felt about him after 1 year in the league, I don't know if I would have had him I would have been like, man, they need him to be a building block guy. Well, the last 2 years he has butted. I still don't think he'll ever be a player that will lead the league in sacks like Josh did in 2023, but I won't completely rule it out for him either, given the growth we've seen in his game here the last couple of years. That's enough to get him to number 2 on the list for
Dylan?
me.
Josh Hines-Allen, number 2 for me.
All right, so I think you got Hines-Allen at 1, Tone. Go ahead and fire up
number 1.
There you go. Trayvon Walker for me because it's a cost per impact. I mean, he led the team in sacks last year. He's still on his rookie deal, and I understand he's eligible for an extension, but you don't have to give him one yet. Plus, he's only 24 years old. So when you do, I don't anticipate Trayvon Walker topping Josh Hines-Allen's market at the moment. But, I think you're going to get similar productivity. You're right, Tony. Maybe he's never a candidate to lead the league in sacks, but he can do a lot of things. I put him at number 1 when you consider the cost per impact.
Sure. Number 1 for me is Josh Hines-Allen. I can't change how anyone feels about Josh Hines-Allen, but I remain convinced that he will be considered the best defensive player to ever play for the Jaguars by the time he finishes his career here with Jacksonville. That doesn't make me any less disappointed in the production he had last year after getting that big contract, but I don't think the reasons for that production are because he is any lesser a player than he was when I was talking about this 2 years ago. I've been on this for a couple of years. Pay Josh Hines-Allen, pay him at the top of the market. I'm comfortable with it. Even with the 8-sack season last year, as I said, I think he will wind up the best player to ever put on a uniform on defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Trayvon for you, Dylan, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Right. By the way, you had Mason Smith at 6. I would have had Ventrell at 6. Like,
he was the other guy.
I would roll the dice on Ventrell Miller over Foye Oluokun. For the short term, for this year, Foye is the guy. I think Ventrell Miller could turn out to be one of the better mid-round picks the Jags have made.
I want it to be Devin Lloyd, but
but clearly not.
No.
At this point. I mean, look, does that mean he doesn't have a future with the team? I can't speak for that, but no. I would have had Ventrell over Foye myself. All right, you can send your top 5 list at MD_1010XL on Twitter. We'll look at a few of those at the end of the show. Coming up next, though, Liam Cohen live in Indianapolis at the Scouting Combine. We'll bring that to you here on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Jaguars today.
You're at the home of the Jaguars in the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tensions build.
3rd and 12. Let's go.
Plot thickens.
We got to get off the field.
Crowds roar. Tune in and let the show begin. Your home for live play-by-play is 1010XL.
Gun charges, drug charges. I'm Attorney Malcolm Anthony, and I specialize in handling these types of felony cases. Stay out of trouble But if you don't, call me at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
Transform your bathroom with stunning shower glass from Sky Glass Solutions in Jacksonville Beach. For a free quote, call 904-608-5151 or visit skyglasssolutions.com.
The best teal-colored coverage includes Mia's Quick Hits.
Get the latest news from inside the building and around the league. I'm Mia O'Brien, 1010XL's NFL Insider.
Driven by Arlington Toyota. Available on the video and social channels of 1010XL.
I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwoods. Clayton, when a customer goes to buy a diamond, how do they know what they are getting?
Frank, that's a good question because what they know comes from the assurances given by the seller, and they can only judge based on the knowledge and reputation of the selling store. Now, over the last 25 years, I've seen some customers misled, and unfortunately, Underwoods was the bearer of bad news too many times. In the 1980s, we saw diamonds brought in with exaggerated grades and no laboratory grading reports. Then in the 90s, we saw some of the poorest cut diamonds ever, even though they had laboratory reports on weight, color, and clarity. Then the American Gem Society opened a laboratory and started grading diamonds for cut, and poorly cut diamonds got priced for what they were. Now we see diamonds from the internet and other places where diamonds are bought sight unseen with a lab report and a bogus appraisal. Unfortunately, not all those diamonds match the reports they're sold with, but how would a customer know? Probably today more than ever, the truest statement is, if you don't know diamonds, you better know a jeweler you can trust.
Florida Home AC wants to make sure you're super cool when things heat up and toasty warm when the temps drop. Indoor comfort for you all year long is what they're going for. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com to score great deals on an AC tune-up and keep the temperature perfect.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Hacker here, thinking I did something spectacular, dropping 123 pounds. But then Steve pops in and dropped a whopping 150 pounds with a Waken 180 weight loss.
I got started because I was sick and tired of just being sick and tired all the time. Wanted more from life, and I knew that at my size, I wasn't being who I could be, who I want to be for not only myself, but for my wife. And I was like, something has got to change and it's got to start soon. I mean, the program is so easy. Everything is really written down for you on your first day. Having someone there to help you and also keep you accountable, just having that someone to talk to, and even the fact that Awaken 180 offers free maintenance for life is amazing because keeping the weight off is a lifetime commitment.
A lifetime commitment is what you'll receive with Awaken 180. 25 pounds like Dempsey, 40 pounds like Matt Hayes, or maybe it's over 100 pounds like Steve and me. Awaken 180 will get you there online at awaken180weightloss.com.
3D Digital has you covered for any of your business's digital marketing needs. From producing award-winning videos to getting those digital ads to follow your customers around the internet, our team has your back. Visit 3ddigital.com or give us a call at 904-712-4004 to schedule a free consultation today. 904-712-4004.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
Take your taste buds to One Night Taco Stand for Taco Tuesday. Get $2.99 tacos and $6.99 specialty drinks. The 1010XL restaurant of the day is One Night Taco Stand, Mandarin, Orange Park, and Southside at Bay Meadows.
Basketball is back as Division I college basketball takes center stage with the UNF Ospreys. Osprey basketball returns home to UNF Arena this Wednesday, February 26th, against Eastern Kentucky. North Florida is back home Wednesday, February 26th, against EKU. Tip-off scheduled for 7. Visit UNFOspreys.com/buy tickets now to secure your seats. UNFOspreys.com/buy tickets now. Swoop!
HVAC system not doing its job? Don't panic. Call the pros at Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. Dial 904-862-6769 now and let our friendly team handle the dirty work so you don't have to.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. The Jaguars held a press conference yesterday to introduce a new GM of the franchise, James Gladstone. Gladstone is already familiar with the new head coach of the Jags, Liam Cohen, as they had previously spent time working with the Rams together. Gladstone reflected on his relationship with Cohen and what will make them mesh well to be successful in Duval.
I think back to our time at the Rams, there was ever this idea that, hey, we're going to end up being GM and head coach side by side. Because of where our roots both fall, we're aligned just in and of itself. Through this whole process, some of the things that really were the most alluring and exciting about this opportunity is that the leadership structure, well, it mirrors what I'm familiar with in Los Angeles. And I know that that's one that I, A, can have success in, and is B, something that can be successful in this line of work.
It's 62 degrees at 10:56. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Everything you need to know about the Jaguars today on 1010XL.
All right, hello to all those who are listening on our many streaming platforms right now. Enjoy it for the next, 2.5 minutes, perhaps, as we go silent over there. As, again, if you're stream off the Jags platforms, okay? Jaguars.com, their Twitter, their YouTube, what have you. There's a bunch of platforms out there to do that. If you are driving around in your car, we want to bring you the thoughts of new head coach Liam Cohen, so we're going to air that much like we did yesterday with James Gladstone, but that's only going out over the air on the radio. So if you're streaming the show, we appreciate you. We'll be back when Liam Cohen's done speaking. James Gladstone's supposed to speak at 11:30, but we just heard from him yesterday, and Frank Frangie's got a chance to sit down one-on-one, I believe, with James Gladstone and Liam Cohen coming up after noon today. So hopefully Frank can fill in any gaps on that. And if we see anything being reported, Tony, of interest that James Gladstone's getting into that he didn't yesterday, we're certainly going to pass that along. Just going back to Hayes Carline joining us earlier on the program today, he wants some more specifics from Liam Cohen. I don't think we're going to get that, though. I think, even if you ask him about Christian Kirk, he's going to say, hey, very talented player. We're in the process of evaluating the whole roster.
Yeah.
We just officially, announced the GM yesterday. So as much as I'd like to hear some of those thoughts about a number of guys.
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker, is a contract extension even percolating in your minds for this offseason?
Yeah, it was at the Combine a couple of years ago when Trent Baalke was asked about the big three free agents that the Jaguars had and how interested are they in bringing back those three guys. And he said, we're bringing them all back. We'd like to bring them all back. Well, they brought back one.
Right. We'd like to.
Yeah.
At our price.
This is the time of year where they don't have real solid answers for what the actual process of what it's going to be looks like. But there's no harm in asking, how do you feel about Christian Kirk? That's fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Should be asked because we haven't heard him talk about that yet.
And sometimes you can read between the lines and you hear things, well, we'd like to, but it's got to work for both sides. That means tough negotiation upcoming, and you're probably going to have to get a team-friendly deal out of these guys. Who knows? I don't know what their thought process is on these players. And again, a lot can change by which players are available in free agency. Yeah. How do you feel about, for instance, in the Christian Kirk thing, about Parker Washington's film? Because this coaching staff wasn't here for Parker Washington or for anybody's career here in a Jaguar uniform. But how ready? I mean, I feel like this team needs more weapons. And unless I've got a good plan in place to replace Christian Kirk, I'm kind of with Hayes Carline. I think he's going to be back this year.
Yeah, I'm there too. My expectation is that Christian Kirk will be back this year. But if they were to spend big on one of those free agents out there, then maybe that opens the door for moving on.
I think
from
Godwin
Christian.
would be interesting because of the connection with Cohen and last year in Tampa.
But I think it would take something like that for me to get on board with being over Christian Kirk.
And as we've heard, the Buccaneers have pushed back a contract deadline with Chris Godwin in an effort to work out an extension with him before he becomes a free agent at the beginning of the league year. So they're, again, all this extra cap space that we found out about in the last week that's coming down the line impacts, I think, that more than anything. Yeah, you'd have a little bit more to throw at Chris Godwin, but he's not necessarily going to be available. And I'm just using him as an example. I have no idea. Maybe the Jags are looking at it like, hey, you know what? Christian Kirk, maybe we can. We've already talked. We can renegotiate this number down. It's palatable. Maybe we can envision him being here for the next couple of seasons as the clear two at best to what Brian Thomas Jr. has become at this point in time. Yeah. And again, we'll take you out to Indy here momentarily. They're getting ready to roll with Liam Coen at the podium in Indianapolis at the scouting combine. So you're going to, I don't know how well we'll hear the questions today. There have been times there in Indy where they don't pass a mic around, so you're going to have to see what Liam Cohen's mic is able to pick up, but you'll be able to get the gist, I think, of what he is responding to based on his answers. And again, if you want to stream all this stuff, James Gladstone's coming up on the Jaguars outlets at the bottom of the hour, and Frank Frangie. And I don't know if Frank and Hayes are both going to sit in on him, but it may just be Frank. But either way, the Frangie Show will have exclusive interviews with Liam Coen and James Gladstone later on this afternoon. And we'll also have Mia O'Brien there live in Indy coming up for the next couple of hours to give her insight on what she's hearing there. Right now, let's head to Indianapolis in the scouting combine.
I mean, it's been a couple of years since I've been able to get here.
Coach Liam Coen, as he spoke just now. That was live at the scouting combine in Indianapolis, and glad we could bring that to you over the airways. Hopefully you were able to switch over and stream it on one of the Jaguars outlets if you would like. James Gladstone coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're not going to air that live, though. Tony will monitor James Gladstone and Liam Coen will each sit down with Frank Frangie in the noon hour. Those interviews will be heard today on the Frangie Show, and I'm sure multiple times throughout the course of the week here on 1010 XL. So there you go. Some thoughts on Liam Coen. I got my notes. I know you do as well. But before we get to them, why don't we take a quick trip around the rest of the NFL?
Now, Gems Around the NFL. Brought to you by Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach.
We'll start with some combine news. Edge rusher Abdul Carter, who is still recovering from a shoulder injury that he suffered during the college football playoff last month, will not be working out at the NFL Combine. Running back Ashton Jeanty, who will not be participating in the on-field workout at the Combine, but will go through the medical evaluations and team interviews up there this week. Washington has given defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, who has 1 year and $15 million remaining on his current contract, permission to seek a trade. San Francisco has signed offensive lineman Ben Barch, a third-round pick by the Jaguars in 2020, who was traded to the 49ers during the 2023 season to a 1-year contract extension. The Las Vegas Raiders and safety Isaiah Polamau have gotten a 2-year extension done worth up to $8.45 million. Cleveland is releasing safety Juan Thorhill with 1 year remaining on his deal there with the team. Carolina has announced that linebacker Shaq Thompson, who has spent his entire 10-year career with the Panthers after he was selected in the first round in 2015, will not be returning to the Panthers for an 11th season. He has only been able to play 6 games in the last 2 years, and Green Bay has proposed the rule change that would ban the tush-push style quarterback sneak that has been popularized in recent years by the Philadelphia Eagles. The rest of the league has seemed to struggle against the play, but the Jaguars didn't appear too much.
Twice in one game, right? So it can be stopped. Dang it. That was one, at least one of those came at around like the 20, 30-yard line, something like that, right? So where you don't just have to worry about stacking everybody up to defend those 2 inches of turf. You've got to worry about the whole field behind you at that point as well. But I saw Sean McDermott. I didn't read the story, but he was quoted as basically saying it's an injury concern. We pointed out, Tone, in the Super Bowl, the thing that stood out, and they didn't recognize it right away on the broadcast, was that Chris Jones hurt his neck trying to defend that play.
He took the weird stance.
He was almost sideways, right? Like he was just trying to throw his full body in there, almost like he wanted the defenders to push him into the line, almost like a sacrificial lamb. But it did result in him getting his neck worked on.
No doubt.
And look, I know these guys are – I don't care either way, quite frankly. If they outlaw the tush-push, so be it. It's not like the Jags rely on it. If they keep it in, I'm fine with that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's run roughshod over the league. Not everybody has a quarterback that they're willing to expose to that kind of contact. Jalen Hurts is built different.
Yeah, Jalen, they do it there. Buffalo does it every now and then, with Josh Allen. There are teams that have the pieces that they feel comfortable doing it.
The Ravens do it with Mark Andrews.
Right? That's okay. I think if you're looking at teams who get in a 4th and 1 and it's really hard to stop the quarterback sneak, that's a shame. Why are they in 4th and 1 again? Right? You don't think that's the team's responsibility? You put the offense in an advantageous situation, and now you want to take that advantage away from them because it's really hard to defend? That's on you, man. I don't want to see anything done about the tush-push. I'm not saying I love the tush-push, but I don't hate it. The way people talk about it, it's like they can do it, and they do it really well. That's fine. That's a productive football play if you have the pieces to do it. I don't think it should be outlawed at all.
No, I don't think it should be, but if it is, it's not going to impact my enjoyment.
I won't be upset
iota,
about it.
Right?
As a fantasy owner of the quarterback there who gets the advantage of it.
Don't draft Jalen Hurts as high.
That would not be my favorite thing.
Saquon Barkley goes from the number 1 pick to the number point one. I mean, how high can you take Saquon?
Yeah.
It's going to be Saquon, Jamar Chase right now, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are going to be the 4 names you see, with Saquon and Chase being the most frequently drafted at number 1 this year. But if Saquon was getting all those goal line carries in addition to everything else, at least for this year coming up, although that was one hell of a workload that he took this year. When you factor in receptions all through the playoffs, well over 400 touches for Saquon Barkley. Anyway, all right, let's from what we could decipher, couldn't hear all the questions, but I think we got the gist of a lot of the answers. I saw people in the Jags stream go, "Why is he talking about the Bucs?" Because he's getting asked about the Bucs, right? And look, this is a national media availability, so some people want to. Bucs reporters want to ask him, hey, what do you think about this young player? In the case of Bucky Irving, he was asked about. Other teams, hey, what do you think? What's your relationship like with this guy? You worked with him in Tampa. Now he's coming to work in Detroit was one of them. Anyway, the things that stood out to me, the number one. What's the number one thing that stood out to you? I'll ask you because I know what it is to me.
Pass game will run through Brian Thomas Jr.
Pass game will run through him. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Why did it take approximately 10 or 11 games for the Jaguars to figure that out?
Yeah, he went through all the LSU stuff. They didn't ask him to do all this. He was fine doing.
He can play multiple positions.
We'll screen it to him. We'll do all that, and then he ends it with the pass game's going to run through Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah,
of course it is.
Yeah,
because he's not stupid.
Yeah,
right. And I don't think Doug Peterson is stupid, but the usage of Brian Thomas Jr. left a lot to be desired last year. Oh, we don't want to overload the rookie. Look, if you didn't see it right away, like would you have overloaded him if you took him in the top 5, right? Because it was justified. His talent showed you that if he had gone that high, it would have been worth it, right? So, anyway, we're beyond that. But I love to hear that.
Yeah, Shad Khan mentioned the Peter principle yesterday.
Yes.
Like from a football player perspective, it would be you put it on him till he can't do it.
Correct.
Right? Like, that's the Peter principle in effect. You put it on Brian Thomas Jr. until you get to a point where it's like, okay, that's too much. Right? But don't say, I don't know if he can. Test him. Like, figure out whether or not he can handle it, and if he can't,
not gonna break
he can't.
in half.
Right. Like, that kind of, you can pull back if you need to at some point, but the way they dealt with that all year just made no sense.
This will be good. Dylan, do you know what the Peter principle is?
No, sir.
Okay. I didn't know how. I know what that expression means. Yeah. It used to be a pretty common expression. Basically means you're promoted to the level of your own incompetence, right? Like you did such a good job at that level. Let's give him a promotion until finally you should have stayed at the job you were really good at. Yeah. And now you get promoted based on the work you did, but now you're in a job you're not as well suited for. That's all that means. But yes, that jumped out to me. Passing game will run through Brian Thomas Jr. It seems obvious, but I still want to hear that. And I love when, Liam Cohen's talking about all the different kind of routes that he thinks he's capable of. We'll do this. We'll mix in this. We'll put him in the slot. We'll put him outside. We can do anything we want with this guy, but the passing game will run through Brian Thomas Jr. That stood out more than anything. A close second in discussion with how much Trevor Lawrence will have a say in roster building, and they want him to have a say. He's not the GM though, right? And I don't know how complicated it is. He's the new dad and all that stuff. Okay, you could probably make an hour to discuss these things if you're Trev, right? I've been a dad. It's not. At least my experience was not like some people make it out to be, where every minute of the day you're just on your last nerve. But in addition, he said the reason why they want to involve Trevor is because, quote, he's our guy.
The franchise.
He's the franchise.
Yeah.
Again, duh. But these people go, oh, man, they're going to move on from Trevor now. They didn't draft Trevor. They came here in large part because of the opportunity to work with Trevor Lawrence. When I say they, Liam Coen, Grant Udinski, and James Gladstone. I don't know if Anthony Campanile cares as much, right, because he's coaching the defense, but it still matters to you, right? You want a productive offense to take some pressure off your defense. They're invested in him. They believe in him. Tony Baselli's as big a Trevor backer as you're going to find, and no matter how you personally, and I think what we have is a very loud minority of fans out there. Look, is it reasonable to say, I wonder if Trevor's ever going to be that promised generational talent? Will he fulfill that? I think that's a reasonable question to ask.
We can have that conversation.
He hasn't been a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
He's flashed the ability to do everything you would want him to do. Can he put it all together more consistently? One other thing that Liam Coen said about him, he feels like he hasn't had the stability. I don't. How much stability do you need? I mean, 3 years under the same head coach and offensive coordinator, I felt like there was a decent amount of stability for the last year. I mean, we can't look back and go, oh, he had Urban Meyer's rookie year anymore. We're well past that at that point in time. But now, hopefully.
But if stability is speaking to the level of offensive line play that they were getting during that time, right? The wide receiver play, maybe taking a big step up with Brian Thomas Jr. arriving and what they can do, with these different kind of pieces. I can see it from stability from that perspective.
Okay. But I think it's a luxury for a lot of quarterbacks.
I don't disagree. But, yeah, from a coaching perspective, he's had the same guys in his ear here for the last several years.
That's what I thought. When I hear stability, I think about staff changes and you have to learn a new offense and all this stuff.
But they have, Cohen's been willing to talk about it, and the few times we've heard Trevor discuss any of this since Cohen has spoken about it, they've talked about the importance, the stress on the run game, and what that does for everything else they're going to be able to do in the offense. And Trevor has not ducked down from that at all. He's like, yeah, we need to be able to run the ball so that we can do everything that it's possible for us to do on offense. Like, it does feel like they are very much in sync there. And hearing the head coach today talking about, yeah, he is the franchise. We want his input, but he also stressed something that I think has always been the case with Trevor, and it's the thing the fans that are out there saying maybe they need to move on from this guy don't seem to hear with the Trevor thing is – I think Trevor Lawrence is as hungry as he can possibly be to be as good as he can possibly be, right? Like, I think I'm not, as the coach said, he's not really worried about the time. He's a new parent, like all that kind of stuff. Like, I get it. That can be a distraction. I don't think that'll be a distraction for Trevor Lawrence from being the best quarterback that he can be, right? I think he's going to put in the time, the energy, whatever's going to be asked him to take the next step, go to the next level. I think Trevor Lawrence is willing to put that work in.
Every dad who's had a kid, okay, unless you're filthy rich, maybe you get a little paternity leave.
Yeah.
Trevor's had a little bonding time here. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you leave your kid behind now, but like I don't feel like Trevor's any different than anybody else out there. There are people listening to us right now that maybe didn't get a day off. Maybe they took one day off. Their kid was born. Mom's at home. You're grinding. You're working as many hours as you possibly can. You're exhausted. You get home. You want to play with your newborn baby. All that, right? That's called life. Okay, we all go through it. So
just the way it works.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it worked out timing wise. But next time, Trev, maybe plan for that kid to arrive like March 1st. Right? Just give us a buffer, a little Super Bowl window in there so we can enjoy the Super Bowl, we can enjoy the parade. Marissa's not going to go into premature labor because of the excitement of the Super Bowl parade here in Duval. And so again, like early March due date, back time it. I'll leave it alone.
Sure.
All right, let's take our final time out here. When we return, a few more thoughts from what we heard from Liam Coen speaking at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. And we'll run through some of your top 5 lists. Who made the cut for you? Top 5 defensive building blocks that are currently on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster. We'll look at those when we return in a moment on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
1010XL is your home for Jacksonville University basketball.
The Dolphins dance into the final regular season game against the Hatters for senior night at Swisher. J.U. Stetson, tomorrow night at 7 on 1010 a.m.
Jaguars Today from the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios.
Don't miss the Players Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scottie Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Learn the secrets to bring your A game on the Edwin Watts Golf Hour.
Yeah, well, you really crushed that ball off the tee, I'll tell you what.
Learn the latest on new equipment from all the major manufacturers on the Edwin Watts Golf Hour. Saturday morning at 10 on 1010XL.
If you're listening to 1010 and you're a parent, chances are your kids are playing sports. Well, check out i9sports.com with spring and summer registration open right now, including all new girls volleyball at Duval Charter Bay Meadows. i9sports.com, enter 1010 for a discount.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy, you look worried.
Worried? I'm apoplectic.
You're what now?
I'm freaking out, Jason. Stupid water heater crapped out, so I haven't showered since Thursday. I start smelling a little funky, blow my big corporate job interview tomorrow. I'll end up settling for some dead-end career selling spatulas on the internet.
Dude, stay cool.
There's nothing cool about a cold shower, Jason. I mean, I know how that sounds, but
Bueller Air and Plumbing can get a new water heater installed today. The day you call. You could be smelling fresh again by dinner time.
wait, you can do that?
Put on these sunglasses.
Whoa.
Is that cooler?
Oh, yeah.
Well, life moves pretty fast. If you spend much more time smelling like this, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Follow Florida Gators men's basketball on 1010XL. Brought to you by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And by Renewal by Anderson, the official window and door replacement partner of the Florida Gators.
These days, we do everything from our phones. That's why JEA's app lets you manage your utility services anytime, anywhere. Whether you want to view your account, pay your bill, sign up for programs, or check the outage map, you can do it all right from the app, when and where it's convenient for you. Because we want to make doing business with us as quick and easy as possible. Download the free JEA app from the App Store today. JEA, your community, your utility.
These days, it feels like everyone is talking about how the American dream of homeownership has become out of reach for so many of us. Well, Rocket is trying to give us more of a chance to own our homes. They're making homeownership simpler and more accessible to more people, turning renters into owners. Rocket believes that every one of us deserves a shot at the American dream. So, are you ready? Own the dream. Visit Rocket.com or call 800-4ROCKET.
Put your best foot forward and score 60 minutes of soccer insight on the Sporting Jack Soccer Hour. Join Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz, and Becky Burley for Soccer Talk.
Tuesday nights at 6
on 1010 a.m.
Experience the high-flying action truly unlike anything on the Supercross circuit at Daytona Supercross. Saturday, March 1st. Side-by-side intensity of Monster Energy AMA Supercross on the most demanding track of the circuit. Get close to the action as riders get pushed to the limits on the Ricky Carmichael-designed track. For a chance to win tickets to Daytona Supercross, answer this. Who won the 450 final Supercross at Daytona in 2024? Text the winner's last name to 641-1010 now.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
All right, coming up here in, 15, 20 minutes, you'll get helmets and heels coming your way. Mia O'Brien will be live in Indianapolis at the Scouting Combine with her own impressions of what Liam Cohen and James Gladstone had to say. As James Gladstone is speaking right now, or at least is scheduled to be speaking right now, and we're not going to air that. We carried his presser yesterday. You'll hear Frank Franchi's conversation. If he says anything really groundbreaking, I'm sure we'll turn that audio around and bring it to you throughout the course of the afternoon here on 1010XL. But, instead of, oh, man, I really don't want to hear from that guy again. We're excited, at least, to hear from the newness of the coaching staff and the front office. And, after this week, and really maybe even after today, right, we'll have everyone introduced, had their introductory press conferences, kind of get tired of it. All right, so what, now what, to borrow one from a former Jaguar head coach. And let's get on to the business of building this roster, all that in good time. But again, Tony, for the folks that were worried about the timing of this, I didn't have any concerns. I don't think you did either about them having enough staff to go to the combine and all this stuff. It's all fine. And, they get all the numbers. They get all the medical checks. They will be there to conduct interviews. That's always an interesting part. Who are you speaking to and all that. But, it's an exciting time. Doesn't mean it'll be a successful time for the Jags, by the way. Many people think they've pushed the envelope too far in bringing in people that are basically inexperienced, at least for the job that they're going to do. And is there that Peter Principle going to be in effect? I hope not. I don't think so. I don't get that sense, but I think we're always optimistic. When Dave Caldwell got hired here, we're like, all right, the general, new man in town. Oh, even if he's released, right? We loved him right away. Yeah. And, so game on is the new, even if he's released, I suppose.
Yeah, not a punter. It's about the first round.
That was the first question we asked Dave Caldwell. Yeah. Who are you going to draft in the first round? Not a punter.
Not a punter.
Right? Which was fantastic.
And that was at the Super Bowl that year.
Like, he got it, right? James Gladstone, I think, just by not being Trent Baalke, doesn't need to lean into any Trent Baalke-isms at that point in time. But definitely that was a big one for Dave Caldwell coming in. It was new. It was brash. It's like, all right, we got somebody who gets it, who's modern. We're gonna drag this team kicking and screaming into the modern NFL. And, it doesn't always work out that way. Just because you're young doesn't mean you're going to be fantastic.
And I tend to agree with Hayes, right? When we asked him about it earlier in the show, when we caught up with him up there in Indy and asked him about the youth movement. And he said, well, it's either going to be spectacular or bomb spectacular. Like, it's going to go one way or the other, and we're all hopeful that it's the right path for the team. Even with that in mind, I'm in favor of them doing what they're doing here, right? To do something that does feel this new. Like, it's a brand new direction for the franchise, and I don't know why it takes this long for these kind of things to happen necessarily. The opportunity to do all of this was when they hired Urban, right? It's when you knew Trevor Lawrence was coming in, you had the opportunity to change GM. You're going to get a new head coach in. You've won the sweepstakes, right? At the quarterback position. They could have done this then, and they chose not to. Shad Khan punted on that opportunity.
He thought he focused solely on Urban Meyer.
Absolutely.
And being the head coach.
And it failed spectacularly.
It did. But I don't necessarily agree that it's either going to be wildly successful or will fail spectacularly. There's a lot of range in the middle.
There is, but that's not my gut. I'm with Hayes. Like, my gut on this is it's going to be at the top or the bottom, right? Because there's so much new for all these guys. Now, can they learn on the job? Yeah. And my gut says it'll be one or the other of them. I'm not saying that there's no space for it to land in between. It's just not what I would expect.
Yeah, I think there's so much space for it to land in between. That I hope. Yeah. Look, I think it's going to be better than it's been. I don't think it's going to be rock bottom because you'd almost, by putting any qualified candidate in these positions, going to be better than the trajectory that the team was on over the last season and a half. But I don't think that ultimately guarantees wild success. I mean, nothing's a guarantee, obviously, but I would lean more towards the successful side. But I'm sure I felt that way when Doug Peterson came in. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, and he delivered in a large way in his first season. Look, you look back at it, and the Jags had so many of those comeback wins in the second half of that year. Imagine if they lost those by one score. You never would have been to the postseason. Right. Lose one more of those games. And then, who knows, maybe the whole process would have been sped up a year earlier. Maybe we were talking about a completely different regime in here right now, but it didn't play out that way. So we're at where we're at. A couple other things Liam Coen was asked about today. Virtual reality as a training tool.
I was so glad he talked about when he said it. I said, I'm glad to know I might have something in common with the new head coach of the Jaguars.
What's that? Get an upset stomach when you put on some VR goggles? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it, but that's always been a problem for me. I doubt he struggles with it to the point I do. Like the merry-go-round when I was a kid would bother my head.
Yeah, the merry-go-round didn't get me, but basically anything just above that level or a Ferris wheel, forget it.
Like I don't look at my phone when I drive because I think it's stupid to be looking at my phone when I drive, but I don't look at my phone when I'm in a passenger seat. Like that bothers my head. Like that level of motion sickness is what I'm dealing with. So when Coach was like, yeah, I got in the VR thing, it made me sick. I was like, we kind of have something in common. I am 100% sure if you put me in the VR machine that I would get sick.
Well, it's interesting. The Jags have a VR kind of a walkthrough suite.
Yeah.
Right? Which, when listening to them, I don't know how much they employed it. Maybe they did a bunch of times, right? And really is going to come down a lot to your quarterback's comfort level doing something like that. But it kind of reminded me, Tone, of like you have this stereo, right? Back in the day, you'd have like the treble and the bass and all these equalizer knobs and all that. And like, I didn't know what to do with much of any of that. Like, I don't know, is this bass
Crank
sound
it all
better,
up.
right?
Yeah.
Crank the bass up, turn the treble down. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So basically, you get a group of settings, and then it turns out it's like a fancy radio, right?
Yeah.
It's not like all these bells and whistles. I hope these bright, young, energetic minds are able to take advantage of all the bells and whistles that the Miller Electric Center provides them.
As a training tool, it seems, man, if you could put that to real use, it'd be amazing.
It seems so like for the people older than us, I'm probably on the edge of like being too old to even think this way. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. But I've always thought, like, why couldn't you learn something? You hear occasionally quarterbacks saying, I learned certain things. I played this team on Madden. And I learned their formation. And look, the formations are the formations, right? I'm not saying that it's a better substitute than actually being on the practice field or watching film or anything like this, but as an addition to all that, and as the technology gets better and better and better, you can feel what it's like to have a rusher bearing down on your face without the risk of getting hit.
As a training tool, I mean, if it's going to work, it's irreplaceable.
Right. I think
to be able to get reps, and you don't have to be on the field to get reps, right? And you're not just
real
doing it.
Quality looks. Like I turn my head and I see what's really there instead of just like, I feel like it could almost be better than a walkthrough because you can go as fast as you want. You can go full speed if you want and let them hit. And maybe you've got that little motion sensor in your headset that, I got hit and then it's vibrating and I know I got to get rid of the ball quicker, whatever the case may be.
I would love for the technology to even get to a point where the league is having to say, you know what, we're going to have to limit the time. Right, that people can actually use this technology.
Right, not everybody has an unfair advantage.
Right,
Tough.
like I would love for it to get to that kind of point. I'm okay if it never gets to that point. And if Trevor Lawrence wants to put one in his house, I'd be okay with it. Right, like I'm okay with if you have that kind of tool and you use it, good.
Didn't James Daniels say that it helped him a lot?
I think he
with
did,
the offense?
right? I think we've seen some of these young quarterbacks, right, that have talked about. I'm not saying
comfortable with it, yeah.
Right, it's completely bypassed other training methods or anything like that, but as a tool in the toolbox, you feel like Liam Cohen's like, it ain't for me, but if it works for Trevor, great. And I'm not saying, again, maybe Doug Peterson and the offensive staff utilized that to the full extent that you possibly could, but makes me wonder what other hidden unlocked secrets
So it
might
says
lie
he
there.
played the VR training at 1.75 speed.
Okay, so sped up.
Yes.
Which, again, you can't do that on the practice field, right? Like in the practice field, you're never even going 100% speed.
It says it made him move 20 times faster in VR than it did like in real life.
Well, there
and
you
now
go.
he's, playing the NFC Championship again.
I mean, right. I think if you are a younger person who grew up with a game system controller in your hand, which probably most young people did to some degree or another, some more than others, you're very comfortable with the idea of putting yourself in those kind of artificial mental spaces, whatever the case may be. So, hey, look, again, not saying it replaces being out on the practice field, right? But it as an enhancement, that's like, again, the Jags, Sean Khan's going to write the check for whatever the team tells him that they need. That's always been what he's done. I do think the one thing that's interesting, Tone, is you go back to last offseason when Shad said, hey, we've got to be, we can't be spending all this money in free agency anymore. We got to be draft and develop. Well, you still got the money.
Yeah.
You've still got to use the cap space if you're going to maximize your impact on the field. Now, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can give your own guys bumps and things like that. But the idea that, it's crazy to me to think that the Jags are not going to come away with a couple of starters in free agency, a minimum of one. But I think, it depends. Maybe you sign a wide receiver and he's your third receiver. Is he technically your starter? Okay, maybe not. But whether it's corner, guard, something along those lines, I think they've got plenty of money. Now, the question is, how good is the pool of talent? Yeah. I think deeper at corner than it is that offensive line, but I'd be very surprised if the Jags don't come away with a minimum of one. I'm leaning more, like if the over-under was 1.5, I'd take the over in terms of new starters. 2.5, I'd take the under, but I think it's going to be 2.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
They could sign a corner and safety and have them be starters.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Just like that, right? If they, Javon Holland and name the guy at corner, right? Because there are a bunch of them out there that might be worthwhile to bring in. Tomorrow we will do Mock Draft Wednesday. And again, like last week, if you want to participate, you don't have to do this, but makes it a little bit more interesting. Pick a position. Presume the Jags found a starter or added to that position in free agency, and see how that impacts your mock. You're probably not going to go as high. Obviously, if you sign a corner, as we did last week, Coen, you're not going to draft one at 5 in that scenario because you got Tyson, you'd have the new guy, you got Jarian Jones. Doesn't mean you wouldn't add cornerback somewhere along the line, but maybe not at that starter level. The other last thing that Liam Coen said, and smart coaches say this, got to pivot and adapt to the players that we've got. We'd like to run this, but, due to a combination of factors, these are the players we have. This is what they're capable of doing. Don't try to shove a square peg in a round hole or vice versa, right? Find out what these guys do best and lean into it. And again, going back to the original point we were talking about as a takeaway, that the passing game will run through Brian Thomas Jr. Sounds like Liam Coen correctly thinks he can do just about anything that he wants to do out there. All right, some of the responses we got to today's question of the day, the 5 defensive building blocks that are currently on the Jaguars roster. Top 5. Got a lot of the names we mentioned. Scott went with Ventrell Miller, Trayvon Walker, Tyson Campbell, Mason Smith, Josh Hines Allen. I think really those guys, along with Jarian Jones and Foye Oluokun, are the ones I've seen the most here. Hines Allen, Jones, Walker, Smith, and Campbell in that order. Jack Van 15 said, I don't feel good about Tyson, but I don't feel like anybody else fit the criteria. So a lot of that, same names. It's more interesting, I think, in the order in which you feel that they are pivotal pieces for the Jacksonville Jaguars moving forward. Let's see. Somebody went with Lawrence, Walker, Hines Allen, Thomas, and Jones. Unfortunately, we're only looking for defensive players today. Probably, I'm gonna give you a good hint that next week's Tuesday top 5 may be offensive players in the same category. All right, tomorrow Mock Draft Wednesday. Right now, let's say hi to Helmets and Heels.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
All right, Taylor Dahl has arrived. Hello. You're just kind of off camera to us. Sorry, you're half on camera. That's okay. It's just the way it is when you walked in. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You'll, I'm sure, be reacting to what we heard from James Gladstone yesterday. I know he just spoke again. Liam Cohen's press conference, anything from what you've heard over the last 26 hours or whatever really stand out to you?
Yeah, I like, and I think I've talked about this before from the beginning of when we're talking about the importance of the run game, and that's just been something from the beginning of the season that we've had so many conversations about. And I heard you guys talking about this last week of all of the running backs that went to new teams that were successful. When you're obviously talking about a Derrick Henry and a Saquon Barkley, but a Josh Jacobs and an Aaron Jones, and all of these guys who impacted these offense so heavily. And then what Liam Coen did with Bucky Irving down there in Tampa, and we talked to some people in Tampa earlier in this offseason or last season, and they were like, yeah, Bucky's probably going to be more of a special teams type of player, and look what Liam Coen made him into, or I helped him develop into being throughout the season. And I just think that's so important. So I love that both Liam Coen and Gladstone have mentioned the importance of that and adding that element into the offense.
Yeah, you got to have the juice like Bucky Irving obviously did last year. And it just kind of highlights like those teams with the free agents that they added. Those were teams that were a piece or two away from being legit contenders. Whereas the Bucs, they're a good team, but like you can go, especially this year, it feels like you can go the rookie route.
Yeah,
You've got a couple of guys here in place. Maybe you draft your running back of the future. But as much as I'm going to give them a chance no matter who they draft, right? But I'm not like on the Ashton Genty in the top 10 for this team. With the depth this year, but if you can get the right guy in round 4, let's go.
And a lot of people are saying that they're talking about how deep this running back draft is, and there's everybody I've talked to is like, you'll be able to get a good player still in round 3 or 4. So that's a positive thing because, to your point, it's not one of those top needs, but it is an element that you want fixing. So it will be also fascinating as Gladstone and Liam Coen really start breaking down the team and the roster as a whole and what they like. And we've had this conversation a few times, Mike, this last few weeks, where there's going to be some uncomfortable decisions for them. These aren't their guys, and they're trying to build something that's going to win beyond a year or two. They want to look at this for the next decade plus. And so sometimes you have to part ways with people maybe you have some attachments to, but it's the way that they are coming in here with these fresh, clean vision of what this roster looks like.
All right, so I know you got Mia live in Indy. What else do you have coming up
so
today?
Frank actually is going to be live with Liam Cohen at 12:15 and then James Gladstone at 12:30. So we're going to air those live, Frank, with both of them during our show, 12:15, 12:30. Okay. We will talk to Mia. Obviously, she'll join us a couple times during the show. And then, the rest will kind of be breaking down what we've heard these last couple days.
All right, have a great show.
Thank you.
Taylor, thank you. And Taylor Dahl, Lauren Brooks, and Mia O'Brien coming up in just a few minutes here for the next couple of hours. That'll do it for us today. Again, if you want to play along, you can go to Pro Football Network, do a 7-round mock. You can knock it out in 5 minutes. You can do a 3-round mock. You can do those at PFF for free, by the way. Whatever you want to do, if you want to participate in Mock Draft Wednesday, we'd love to see them. Just screenshot them, send them to us tomorrow, whether they're on social media or the text line. That'll do it for us today. Thanks again to Hayes Carline for joining us from the Combine. He'll join us again tomorrow. We'll check in several times in Indianapolis. For Tony Smith and Dylan Denmark, I'm Mike Dempsey. Thanks for listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Hey, folks, Mike Dempsey here for a